Check the 40 show. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party.
Ready?
Sure.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here.
Me too.
John, we have 4 o'clock games, and we're going to get right off the bus with your 5-0 Seattle Seahawks heading to Arizona, State Farm Stadium. Going to see a lot of those stupid commercials against the 4-2 Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, another higher scoring game, total of 56. So there should be some fantasy goodness to be had here. Seattle's actually tied with Green Bay for the highest total of the week, 29.75. And the Cardinals are 26. So there should be points to be had here. That's not surprising because both of these teams have been productive on the fantasy side of the football. You're going to play your studs. Seattle's secondary has been thoroughly trashed for fantasy this year. I believe they're giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers, and I'm correct. 38.3 is their average. Minnesota's second at 32, so they're 6 full points ahead of the next team. So all these Cardinals receivers, they've been spreading the ball around a bit lately, but Isabella is in play. Kirk, after last week, is in play. Obviously, Hopkins is in play. If you're desperate, you could probably even trot Fitzgerald out there if you're in a pinch this week with buys and injuries and all the other stuff. Obviously, if you have Kyler Murray, you're playing him. The only thing you can't play on the Cardinals is a tight end because they don't feature it in their offense. Running back, you want to go back to the Kenyon Drake? Well, feel free, but I don't trust that guy after a big week. I trust him more if he has a shitty week and then can bounce back, but not for me. For Seattle, obviously, you're going to play DK Metcalf. You're going to play Lockett. You're going to play Chris Carson. Kind of musical chairs at tight end with Greg Olsen, who's good week, bad week, good week, bad week. Kind of goes back and forth, but the Cardinals haven't given up a ton to the tight end position, only 5 points per game, so it should be the wide receivers and running backs in here. But this should be one of the better games for fantasy too, and more fun games to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a low-scoring division affair, where it's one of these ugly knock them down, drag them out NFC West division games where, 24-20, who wins it? So, unfortunately, I'm going to disagree with you on that. But we're still here to talk about fantasy now. So, give me the under on the 56 points. How are the Falcons not the worst team at defending the wide receiver? Because they've given up over 2,000 yards passing and 18 touchdowns on the year. Who is catching these passes? Is it all tight ends and running backs? How are they not worse than the Seahawks as far as points allowed to the wide receiver position?
It's a good question. Atlanta's actually fourth, only 30.3. Seattle, Minnesota, Cleveland, then the Falcons.
That's insane. They, like I said, 2,000 yards passing and 18 touchdowns given up. So it must be a lot to the running back in the tight end position. But I'm not here to talk about the Falcons.
This is specifically 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's obviously going to the tight end and the running backs since they are the worst passing defense in the league. But in this one, I said the Seattle pass defense is somehow getting by at 5-0, allowing 370 yards per game. Just still baffles my mind, but just black and white. Who scores more fantasy points in this one? We have some monsters. Russ or Kyler?
I'll go Homer. I'll go Russ.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. Kyler has to do it with his legs. He just has not been consistent throwing the ball, and that's how you get it against those Seattle Seahawks. He just looked off a lot last night. They got away with a beaten-up Dallas crap team because Kyler was just not as dialed in as I wanted him to be in that one. And then the next one would be Nuke or DK.
This is an amazing activity, and we should start doing this more going forward. I'm going to go Hopkins.
Okay, so you went quarterback on one side and a receiver on the other side, which is an interesting pivot. You're diversifying here. I didn't like that they weren't able to get on the same page against a terrible Cowboys secondary. And so maybe they'll focus on getting that right. But I think DK just comes out of this bye week bigger, faster, and stronger than he even went into it. And he's going 150-1. That's my new thing, 150-1 for these receivers because 101 isn't shit anymore. You could do that on 2 plays. I mean, Christian Kirk almost did it. So 150-1 for DK Metcalf against these Cardinals. I also agree. I would go Russ DK for my stack with those two of who scores more fantasy points. Yeah, I wouldn't trust Drake. You can trust Chris Carson if you want. He's been hit or miss for me. Is he going to catch the touchdown passes? Is he not? Because they're just not a consistent rushing team at present. And those Cardinals, albeit against an undermanned Cowboys offensive line, they look pretty stout, bottling up Ezekiel Elliott, forcing fumbles and the like. They're okay. They've given up 718 on a year, 4.4 per carry, but only 3 rushing touchdowns. Their run defense isn't that bad. They did lose Chandler Jones rushing off the edge, so Russ should have all day. But I continue to be scared about Chris Carson's floor. I think he, as much as any running back in this league, is touchdown or bust, and that touchdown typically has to come receiving for him to have the day you want. So a little concerned. I would probably trust Kenyon Drake over Chris Carson in this same game because it's clear Kenyon Drake's getting volume. They're not going away from him. They're doubling down on Kenyon Drake right now, even after the subpar start.
So I'm going the opposite. I'm going Carson there, and then to stick with your game, do you like Lockett or whoever ends up being the Cardinals' number 2 receiver in this game?
I'll trust Lockett because the only one I think that can battle him is probably Christian Kirk. And while they didn't manufacture that early touchdown for him, and then he got a deep one late, he still only saw 3 targets on the day. And Lockett is in store for far more than that. So I think I would take Lockett easily in that one. And then, like you said, tight end is not debatable because there's only one in this game, and it's Olsen, and he's not even a sure thing.
Total tight end points in this game. Over, under 6.5.
The fact that I even hesitated. I was going to ask you PPR or not, but who gives a shit? You don't start a tight end in this game, so push. I'll take a push.
We're 5 tight ends in the game. Can't even get the point per guy.
Yeah, this is the world we currently live in, folks. Well, we're going to move on to another game that's going to be happening out west, and it is the 1-5, clearly tanking, question mark at quarterback, Jacksonville Duval Jaguars. Yep, I'm back to being concerned about Gardner Minshew. Head to SoFi Stadium, which clearly has 2 games every single week. I say SoFi Stadium multiple times every week with these teams, and I don't think that's what happens typically in MetLife Stadium, that they end up having 2, but the Chargers are hosting on Sunday, and then the Rams are hosting on Monday. But the 1-4 Justin Herbert-led LA Chargers.
Chargers are drawing the same amount of fans during the pandemic as they would if we were fully open. That's the plus side. So Chargers are a huge favorite, 8-point home favorite against the Jags, which you wonder if they would be less if they had fans actually there. So Chargers are looking at 28 points. Jacksonville is looking at 20. Boy, you gotta think the Chargers look good. Bear's been pretty damn good out there, so I like him. Keenan Allen, if he is healthy, which I believe he should be back and healthy, should have a very good game here. Jacksonville, this is kind of the thing we have with a lot of these games, where it's the fantasy guys involved here. So you're gonna play Robinson, you're gonna play Keelan Cole. If Chark is back, he's obviously in play. Chargers, Mike Williams could be in line for a good game here. Tight end.
Did I hear you say it?
Yeah, you heard me say it. I'm not a fan of it. So this actually could end up being one of those sneaky good fantasy games where a lot of guys end up scoring. I mean, the total is 49.5, so they're looking for some points to be had, and they could be. This game's either – you're going to know in the first 5 minutes what we have here. This is either going to be it's going to be one of the worst games of the week, or it's going to be 30-something to 30-something. So, yeah, but there's no sleepers here. There's nothing that's going to come out and surprise you.
No, you are correct. I mean, the Jacksonville defense just let the Detroit Lions run all over them this past week. So this should be a good game. It was 180 yards and 3 touchdowns by those Detroit Lions, and they're not a juggernaut run team. The Chargers want to run the ball. So I'm calling Justin Jackson RB1 week. here coming out of the bye. Joshua Kelly will still get his touches, but he's clear second fiddle here. But he'll see 10 or 12 touches at the end of the day. Jacksonville, who even knows anymore? DJ Chark had 14 targets in this last game and was able to turn in a sterling 7 for 45 performance on that. That has to be one of the most disappointing points per target opportunities I have ever seen on a stat sheet, while Keelan Cole exploded for 6 for 143. Chark's not healthy. Maybe they're rushing him back. Who even knows? They need to get Laviska Shenault more involved. He's not as involved as he should be in this offense. He should be a focal point already of this offense and see what they have in this young man. But yeah, the Chargers are going to destroy Jacksonville. Herbert's going to smash it home. He's easily thrown for 300. He should throw multiple touchdowns. My boy, Big Mike Williams, 101 easy. I think Keenan Allen, who I haven't read anything that is significant, his back just locked up on him. He got the week off. He should be okay, but I think they pulled a cord on him a little early in a blowout. And we might even see a Jalen Guyton, big, sneaky touchdown, 100-yard day at the end. I think they're going to rotate some of these secondary pieces in later and hopefully still take shots with Herbert, because my concern with them is they continue to adjust and get conservative after great starts, these Chargers, and they have lost themselves some games. They lost the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs didn't beat them. Their game plan just went to shit in the second half offensively, and they tried to protect Herbert and the lead rather than going for the kill. This is a go-for-the-kill game. This is one they could put up 45 points on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yep. Easy, and they should do it.
I'll actually make another prediction. Hunter Henry, tight end 1 this week. Jacksonville's given up 11.2 to the tight end. Chargers are also giving up 10.5. If the Jags had,
tight end.
Yeah, and I do like I've had O'Shaughnessy on a couple rosters for years because he's been playable, especially these weeks where guys are on buys. There's a ton of injuries. I mean, he's got a low floor, low ceiling, but he'll get you 3 fucking points. So it's better than taking the goose egg. But I like Hunter Henry a bit here. But this is, you mentioned Guyton. Can we get a Joe Reed game? So I hope you're right about them getting some of the other pieces involved, because I just want to see him use them.
Just so we're clear, Gardner Minshew threw the ball 44 times in the comeback against the Detroit Lions. Not a single target went to a Jaguars tight end. So proceed with caution, folks. James O'Shaughnessy sounds more like a prohibition bootlegger than he does someone that's going to get a touchdown for you in week 7.
He's shooting a Tommy gun on the side of a car.
All right. Start all your Chargers. And please, can James Washington, or what's his name, James Robinson, get back to his somehow 15 carries, 5 targets, because that's what they need to do. Unlikely. But we're moving now to Empower Field at Mile High Stadium, where the 5-1 Kansas City Chiefs head to Drew Lock's backyard to face off against the 2-3 Denver Broncos.
Am I the only person that hasn't been too impressed with Kansas City so far?
I don't think Kansas City's been too impressed with Kansas City so far. They've been a mixed bag. I don't think they've, quote, put it all together yet. They're just not – they don't look like they're clicking where they're just like throttling out the gate. I mean, I think they put a pretty good performance out in conditions against the Buffalo Bills, who are a quality team. But outside of that, the loss to the Raiders, I think we were both on taking the Raiders with the points, but I don't think either of us thought the Raiders are going to outright them. That Patriots game was ugly. The Patriots know how to contain Mahomes. The Ravens have a good defense, so that still wasn't a big one. They fired against the Texans week 1, and then the Chargers, that was a typical division game. So looking back, I mean, this hasn't been the Chiefs offense that we have wanted thus far, but I do think brighter days are ahead. At Broncos versus Jets versus Panthers next 3.
Jets. What's the line going to be next week? Let's make that prediction now.
I'm going to tell you the line's going to be Le'Veon Bell 1,000,000% scores a rushing touchdown, and hopefully he runs over and hands the ball to Adam Gase.
What do you think it's going to be?
17.
I'm going to go crazy. It happens every once in a while. I'm going to say 20 and a half.
I was going to say that line never hits. I know you're more Vegas than me, so I wasn't willing to go to the 20s. I thought it was being a little bullish.
Every once in a while,
17.
Somebody's laying 3 touchdowns. It's very rare, but I'm going to put it up there. Yeah, I don't see how they're not 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jets are getting 13 against Buffalo, and the Chiefs just covered against those Buffalo Bills a week earlier. So, yeah,
we started the show
high enough.
Started the show living in the past, wrapping it up, going a week ahead. But I get back to this week. Kansas City's projected at 29, Denver at 20. Like we were saying, I haven't been that impressed with them. Denver is sound defensively. I actually like Denver getting the 9 if I had to bet on this one. But Melvin Gordon was banged up. Lindsey looked good playing while he was out, so I do kind of like Lindsey in this one a bit. Kansas City, you're obviously not benching any of these guys. Although the thing with them is when they do get Bell involved, how involved is he going to be when he finally is getting on the field and seeing a little more work? So if you have Edwards-Helaire, or you're going to play him, but it's a little head scratching now every week. If you have a better matchup, you can bench him, I think. And although feel free to, you may be leaving a 5-point game on your bench, which will hurt. But little question mark we have in this Kansas City offense, which we haven't had for a while. You're going to play, I like Mecole Hardman in this one. I do like Tyreek Hill as always. Kelsey's always in play for Denver. Tim Patrick's been just being force-fed the ball, and he's done well with his touches. So I do like Tim Patrick. And at running back, I like them, but I just – obviously we're recording this on Tuesday. I'm waiting for a little more clarification on what's going to be happening there. If Gordon's back and he's sick, healthy, whatever's happening.
Listen, you're talking about Tim Patrick in a game where Drew Lock somehow only threw for 189 yards. Tim Patrick had 101 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude's been a revelation for a team that retooled this offseason with pass catchers. It's been the lone holdover because they lost Sutton that's been leading the chart. It hasn't been Judy, hasn't been Hamler, hasn't been Alberto. It's been Tim Patrick, the most generic name in the entire NFL, is startable and will be startable in this week because they should be chasing points here. The Chiefs aren't stout against the run. They've actually given up the third most rushing yards in the NFL so far, 4.8 yards per carry, only 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. But to your point, if Melvin Gordon's not there, you go right back to the well with Philip Lindsay. He's going to get the lion's share of the rushing downs work. He's not going to catch an effing pass because they really hate him as a pass catcher. That's part of the reason they brought Melvin Gordon in. So maybe a little Royce Freeman season, but not a lot you want to trust on the Denver side. I would feel comfortable with Tim Patrick. And again, if no Melvin Gordon, firing up Philip Lindsay. But on the KC side, can we just quickly talk about why Andy Reid hates Mecole Hardman? Just did not one target in this game. I mean, Robinson led them in receiving. So, yeah, it was limited for Tyreek Hill as well. But Byron Pringle also saw far more work, 2 for 46 in the game. One target for Mecole Hardman. I don't know the snap counts. I don't even want to look at them because I watched a majority of that game. Never saw him. It's just never on the field. So was it conditions? Was it what? Was it just their utter hatred for me and my desire for Mecole Hardman to break out? This was supposed to be the week. No Sammy Watkins. Move him out of the way. Put Mecole Hardman there. Leverage that speed. Him and Tyreek Hill against each other. Did I miss the memo from Chiefs Kingdom saying, no, we refuse to let you have any joy and happiness in Mecole Hardman? Because if not this week, when? It's going to be when I finally give up, isn't it, John?
Oh, yeah, that's how life works. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to sit him this week, and he's going to explode against the Denver Broncos.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Just curious more than anything.
Another thing I mentioned, kind of being scared of Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week. Broncos only giving up 12.1 points fantasy to running back. The best in football. So they're not even – he's playing the worst matchup possible and got the specter of Le'Veon Bell lurking behind him.
Yeah, they've only given up 4.3 yards per carry and only 3 rushing touchdowns on the season, 553 yards, one of the better run-stopping defenses. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been a revelation as a pass catcher, which is what I think everyone just thought was a foregone conclusion. That's where Le'Veon Bell is going to eat. He's going to take all that passing down work from Clyde Edwards-Helaire and from Darrell Williams, and he'll probably pick up most of Darrell Williams' rushing work. So I still, at the end of the day, think it's still going to be a 60% to everyone else is 40 for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he's going to lose some of that upside. Bell might get some of the short yardage type work because Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been that effective in goal-to-go situations, and they're sure as shit going to use Bell as a pass catcher, which is going to marginalize CEH a little more. So I don't think 26 carry days are in the offing for CEH in subsequent weeks, but I am very interested to see what they do with Bell in week 1. Moving on to the last 4 o'clock game, we have the struggling San Francisco 49ers head to New England. Sorry, the struggling 3-3 San Francisco 49ers head to New England, Gillette Stadium, to face off against the 2-3 Cam Newton led New England Patriots.
Led with a question mark is perfect. I think this line is a result of what have you done for me lately. It opened at 5. New England was a favorite. Now it's down to 2.5. Total's only 45.5. So the team totals are Patriots are looking at, where'd they go? Oh, there they are. 24 points. And the Niners are looking at 21. I think both teams kind of go back to what we saw earlier in the year. I think the Niners end up getting trounced here. I actually love New England laying 2.5. I'd even take it at 3 and go for the push. I don't see how they don't win by a field goal. I just think New England's the better team. I don't think it even gets to the 45, though. I think it's lower scoring and New England wins here. I'm fading this game for fantasy where I can. I just don't think Garoppolo goes to New England and Belichick gets beaten by the former Brady protege in New England. There's just no way. I'm not too excited about this game.
New England was atrocious.
Correct.
I mean, they admitted like everything was off, like with the whole COVID thing and the moving targets and then their schedule and all. But oh my God, Cam looked abysmal. I mean, sure, he still put up his baseline on the ground. What do you have, 70-some and a touchdown rushing? But he was terrible throwing the ball. I mean, Julian Edelman was 2 for 2 for 38 yards passing. They need to get that ex-quarterback a little more love because he ain't catching passes anymore in this offense. So let him be that wildcat-y type quarterback taking a couple of shots. But I was impressed with what Shanahan did with San Fran on Sunday Night Football to beat the Rams, but it was all this manufactured stuff. It was all this underneath. It's clear they do not trust Jimmy Garoppolo to set and throw and take advantage of shit. It's literally like, how can I find Ayuk, Debo, and George Kittle within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and hope and pray that these freak athletes turn them into 70-yard gains? Other than that, it's turn around and hand the ball off, which you didn't even mention. Raheem Mostert sounds like he's going to miss this game. He left with an ankle, came back in for one play, and immediately yanked him back out and rolled him out for the rest of the game. So we got a little JaMychal Hasty over Jerick McKinnon at the end of that game, and it wasn't like they were running out the clock. They didn't spank the Rams. So maybe it might be a little changing of the guard. I hope not, because whenever Jerick McKinnon's been given the opportunity to be the lead back here, he has been successful, which could be another good spot for him, especially as a pass catcher. But I'm surprised that you're just trusting these new look Patriots and going with the Jimmy Garoppolo going to New England narrative, because they have looked bad.
I don't disagree, but I don't think the Niners have looked good either.
Yeah, I don't disagree. They've tried to figure it out. New England pass defense isn't allowing 8.1 yards per attempt, and I wrote, unfortunately, Jimmy G isn't allowed to throw it past the sticks. Right. While in the same season, New England has only allowed 1 rushing touchdown. So this is like a something's got to give situation, because you know that the 49ers want to run the ball. Whoever the running back is, they want to establish the run at the end of the day. And if for nothing else, the Patriots are pretty stout against the run. So they get had versus the pass, and that's something that Jimmy Garoppolo has not been very successful at so far this season. So I'm actually very interested to see where this one goes. But to your point, there is not a lot of fantasy to be had here. I'm not starting either quarterback if I can help it, not even Cam. Obviously, you're starting Kittle. Debo has gotten more and more involved, so I would start Debo as probably a wide receiver too, low-end wide receiver too. I'm not too comfortable with Ayuk. He's kind of been marginalized a little bit with Debo coming back. We don't know who the running back is in San Fran. In New England, we never know who the running back is, and they don't have a wide receiver worth a shit right now. So nothing. I'm not starting anything on New England side. Kittle and Debo are the only two on San Fran side I have any relative confidence in.
The one thing you kind of mentioned to want to touch on a little more. So Hasty got in that last game. When Mostert was out for the couple of weeks or whatever he missed, they force-fed McKinnon, and he looked pretty damn good and was putting up some lofty fantasy totals. So Mostert came back, and he totally vanished. McKinnon vanished last week. So this week he comes back. Mostert gets banged up again, and they didn't really go back to McKinnon, which is I don't have him in a ton of places, but where I do, it's a little scary. I don't know why they didn't use him anymore or more.
Yeah, I'm very much in the same vein because it wasn't like Mostert was doing anything against the Rams before he even left. 17 for 65. He got the volume, but only 3.8 per carry. Hasty looked good, looked fresh, sure, but McKinnon hasn't done anything that I've seen in game tape to not be next man up there, and he clearly was not. It was Hasty that they were trusting at the end of the game, so I'm a little concerned with who that guy will be. They also said that Jeff Wilson might be back next week, so who knows what's going to happen with San Fran. Sunday Night Football. Your backyard, John.
Woohoo.
Tampa Bay, Tom Brady's, and Gronk is just living his best life heading back out to Vegas after he's back on the fantasy radar with a touchdown. Head to Las Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders, Allegiant Stadium. So the 3-2 off their bye, off the beating that they put on to those aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs before the Raiders. Chili's cooking hot right now. What do we got going on here?
He had another line where I think a lot of it's what have you done for me lately? Which with Tampa beating the shit out of Green Bay, I thought this line would be bigger, but Vegas coming off the win against Kansas City, he's only keeping it at 3 on the road. Total of 53, so they're expecting a lot of points here. Tampa's looking at 28, while the Raiders are looking at where'd they go? I lost the Raiders 25. So there should be fantasy points here. Tampa Bay has been very good against the run, so I don't expect much from your guy, Josh Jacobs. I think they're going to have to do most of their damage through the air, which they can, I think. I just wish Carr would fire the ball down the field a little bit more. But you're going to – but who's catching the fucking ball? The Raiders are – I don't get why they're good. And this is just a bad matchup for them. I think they match up poorly with Tampa Bay. What Tampa does well should limit what the Raiders do well. I think Tampa covers that 3 easily. I think Godwin has a big game here. I'm not trusting Mike Evans, but I think it's Godwin, Scotty Miller, Gronk might get involved again. I do like Brady in this matchup. The Raiders, I think, are just this is a terrible matchup for them, so I think Tampa wins this one pretty easily.
Yeah, those Raiders are giving up 12.4 yards per reception right now, second worst to the Steelers as far as what they give up every time a pass catcher catches the ball, and hopefully that means getting my boy Chris Godwin back where he belongs in that alpha seat, because it sure shit isn't Mike Evans. When Chris Godwin plays, Mike Evans is a touchdown-dependent tight end. That's what it turns out to be. He better be catching a 1-yard touchdown that they aren't giving to Ronald Jones. But conversely, those same Raiders have given up 10 rushing touchdowns on the season. So quick math, 5 games, 2 per game right now on this young season. And you see that Bruce Arians is trusting Ronald Jones with literally as much as he can handle. This is going to be another Ronald Jones game. This is a Ronald Jones RB1 game. Easy. As far as Josh Jacobs, coming off the bye, should be healthy. Yeah, the Bucs have been very stout against the run. They did lose Vita Vea, but still didn't let much happen against those Green Bay Packers until garbage time, where A.J. Dillon busted off a couple of long runs and threaded off. But they bottled up Aaron Jones, who was lucky to get a touchdown early in that game. So who knows? And they did steal Steve McClendon from the Jets, who are tanking, to plug him into the middle of that defense as well. But I'm still going to fire Josh Jacobs up as a low-end RB1, high-end RB2, because he's proven that he's involved in the passing game. So he's going to get the receptions necessary. You said who are they going to throw to? Well, it was Ruggs against those Chiefs, who didn't get hurt in that game and then had a bye. So he's, by all accounts, still healthy. I'm going right back to the well with Ruggs, because they're going to have to stretch the field keep pace with these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it also obviously is easily a start Darren Waller game. And after what I saw from Gronk, now that O.J. Howard isn't there, maybe knocked the rust off a little bit. He still looked like an absolute idiot doing the post-game interview and could barely have a conversation with Aaron Andrews, and did talk about how his right elbow or his arm was messed up, so he had to spike it with his left hand. That doesn't inspire hope when he just outwardly admits that he could not spike a football with his right arm because it was too sore, but he's still out there playing football. At the end of the day, him and Brady are going to click again. I wouldn't be surprised if they go back-to-back touchdown dance for him. And, that's about the gist of it in that game. I think Derek Carr is a sneaky start because they will have to throw. They will have to throw it a lot. They will have to score points, and they're at home. And we saw what he was able to do against the Chiefs in a similar construct of game. So I think Derek Carr is a sneaky low-end quarterback one in this same game. Last but not least, Monday Night Football and the paper champion Chicago Bears at 5-1 head to SoFi Stadium. Back-to-back empty venues to face off against the LA Rams, who are currently at 4-2. What do you got?
This week sucks. That's what I got. Concludes on a whimper, just like it.
It's strong.
Rams hosted the Bears. Rams are 5.5-point favorite, which is kind of surprising, I think. Bears total 46. Looking at the Rams with 25 points and the Bears at 20. The offense for the Bears is running through the tight ends. So you're going to play Jimmy Graham. Komet got in the end zone last week, if I'm not mistaken. The tight ends are a very important part of this offense. So you're going to play the tight ends. Montgomery is in play just because there's no one else anymore in that backfield. Cordell Patterson has actually been usable for fantasy. I have him in a few leagues, and I've plugged him in, especially with these injuries. And buys coming up, and he hasn't killed me. He's not going to win you a week, but he's also not going to hurt you. And then, of course, Allen Robinson. I do not trust Foles to volume his way into high-end fantasy production. For the Rams, boy, oh boy, full-blown running back by committee. Didn't Akers get one carry last week? Finally healthy?
I do not think he got a touch.
I think he got one.
We can fact check this real quick. He did not. No
0 or 1. It's
0.
No good is what it is. Looks like Henderson is kind of the lead guy now. Malcolm Brown is still getting a little work. The Bears are a pretty decent run defense, so it doesn't matter. You're not playing any of those guys anyway. At wide receiver, Woods seems to be the favorite guy there. With Kupp and the tight ends kind of in the same role. They're all kind of feeding off each other, so I don't trust any of them. There's a lot not to trust in this game. So, like I said, this is an ugly week to start, total of 46 to close it. I don't really trust too many players in this game. And you know, if you're trailing and you're depending on Cooper Kupp on Monday night to salvage this W for you this week, you're in a bad spot.
Well said. Yeah, and I said the Bears are a sham, and they're going to be routed by the Rams on Monday Night Football.
So you like the Rams laying the 5.5?
I do. And if for nothing else, let me just try and paint a picture here. One, the Chicago Bears somehow beat the Carolina Panthers last week, 23-16. Okay, we've mentioned ad nauseum on this podcast about how bad the Carolina Panthers are defending the run. Those Bears had 24 carries for 64 yards, 2.7 per clip, led by David Montgomery's 3.1. Nick Foles stole a bunny touchdown from him, and somehow Cordell Patterson had a 1-yard carry. The Bears can't run against the worst rush defense in the NFL. They are not going to be successful in doing so against a much more formidable, although not great, defense in the LA Rams. On the other side of the ball, the Chicago Bears have only allowed 4 passing touchdowns on the year, which I found to be astonishing. Now, they haven't faced a murderer's row of opponents to get to this 5-1 so far. They did face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so not the end of the world, but Lions, Giants, Falcons, Colts, Bucks, Panthers. So not a lot to be had on those teams. I don't think Julio played, or he got hurt when they played. The Colts
Holiday was out too.
Yeah, Galladay didn't play week 1. The Giants don't really have anyone throwing it or catching it on their team. The Colts, Phillip Rivers, please sell him after the huge week he just had because he's going to come crashing back down to earth. And then the Bucs was a Thursday night anomaly. So it's not like they faced the best of the best, but still 4 touchdowns through 6 games is something to be impressed with. So, yeah, to your point, if you're trusting Cooper Kupp to come from behind and win you a week on Monday night, Godspeed, my friend. I think this is the running backs and probably the defenses here, I think, are both sneak good. Darrell Henderson's getting all the work. They keep talking about they want to get Akers involved, but like we said, he didn't get 1 carry last week. Henderson has not done anything to not continue to get the lion's share of the work. I do think Akers will eat into a little bit. Henderson, by far, is the running back I want in this game. I might even consider Akers over Montgomery slightly. Gun to my head. The only receiver that I feel confident is I do hate him. Is Allen Robinson, not Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. They use him in such a diverse way. He continues to get rushing opportunities to stay relevant, even though they're not a high volume passing attack. I'd start Robert Woods over Cooper Kupp. Yes. And as far as the tight ends are concerned, like you said, for the Bears, it runs through the tight end, but who is it going to be? I mean, Cole Kmet, they said they wanted to get him more opportunities, so his rise will be Jimmy Graham's inevitable fall. And Tyler Higbee, he had his week against the Eagles. Like I said, it's not him anymore, so feel free to trust him if you want, but I am not, and I'm sure as shit not trusting either quarterback in this game. You're right. This falls flat as a Monday night closer. I'd much rather see the Vegas Tampa game be the Monday night closer.
If you're trailing on Sunday night, you got very little hope here to get yourself bailed out.
If you're trailing on Sunday night, look forward to week 8. Retool and regroup. But
we started on a whimper. It's going to end on a whimper with a lot of whimpers in between. This week 7 is I don't see a lot of fantasy goodness. This is going to be one of the lower scoring weeks of the year, I believe.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you, but let's try and end this on a high note, John. We went long here, hour and a half. A lot of games, a lot of talking. Let's give one bold prediction and get out of here. What say you, sir?
How crazy do you want to get?
Something you believe is going to happen. Not like last guy on the roster scores 7 touchdowns.
All right, let's dip into a game I'm not a big fan of. I think Cam Newton rushes for 3 touchdowns against the Niners.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going with Zach Moss time, largely in mop-up duty in that blowout against the Jets. Zach Moss will score 2 touchdowns for the Buffalo Bills in MetLife Stadium and hopefully not be injured at the end of one of them.
And the least surprising development ever, a week where we hate every game, we go long.
We talk more when we hate stuff.
Absolutely.
But get us out of here, John.
So that should do it. Enjoy what you can in week 7. Hold your nose and wait for it to be over. Look ahead to better things. For the Fantasy 40, I'm John DeBari. My co-host, Matt Walker, MIA, Mr. Andrew Burke, and we are out of here. Ow!
All right. See if I can chop down this monster.
Broad